Good afternoon, sir. My name is Zord Gábor. I'm working for Magyar Nemzetvédelmi newspaper. Let me begin with this great honor to meet with you. I've read about you and your work in university years. So, first, my question: when I learned about your core and periphery theory in university, I was very much amazed how accurately it modeled Hungarian history until at least the 20th century. Unfortunately, many of us believe that it proved to be valid for the last 20 years as well. What the future holds for Central East Europe?
I have been asked that question here several times, and in a sense I get asked that question everywhere in the world, because everywhere in the world people feel that their governments should do something to improve the relative economic standing of the population in relation to the rest of the world. Metaphorically, I say this is the desire of all countries to become Denmark. Denmark is a small country. 150 years ago, it was an exclusively agricultural country. Today, it's an extremely wealthy country with one of the highest standards of living in the world. Hungary would like to be like Denmark, so would everyone else. The basic problem is that in the modern world system, everybody can't be Denmark. There is no way that everybody can be Denmark. That doesn't mean that countries cannot improve their relative standing. But what it does mean is that when one country is improving its relative standing, it's usually because another country is declining in its relative standing. We live in a very polarized system. There is movement. There's slow movement all the time. Some countries do improve their situation. So now if we come to the specific case of Hungary, Hungary, as all countries, is a prisoner of its geography. It's located in a certain place. That means that it has to relate more to some countries than to others. Basically, Hungary has got Western Europe on one side, it's got Russia on the other side. That's really the constraints, the geopolitical constraints on Hungary. It's now part of the European Union, and it will maintain that relationship. Hungary in the last 10 years or so has retained its relative status. It's neither improved nor gotten worse. That, as I try to explain to some people, is already an achievement. Don't underestimate staying stable, because some countries have been going down in that period. For example, the United States. The standard of living in the United States today is lower than it was 30 years ago. And it will be still lower 30 years from now. It's a lot higher, I know, than Hungary's, but it's a declining standard of living. Yours, at least, is stable. Will you be able to do much more than that? Depends a little bit on how well Europe does, relatively speaking, in the world system over the next 20 or 30 years. And at the moment, that's a little hard to predict. So, I don't know.
Sir, just getting more specific. When the countries of the region most of the time seem to rival each other to get good points with Washington, Iraq, Afghanistan, anti-missile defense, Do you think they, with doing this, do you think that they are actually try to swim against the current of a developing Russo-Franco-German relationship?
Well, clearly, countries that used to be satellites of the Soviet Union and are now politically much more independent have worried very much about the resurgent potential and present resurgent power of Russia. And in that sense, they have looked to the United States as a basic protector or potential protector of their interests. So they do many things to try to make the U.S. government happy with them in expectation that there will be some reciprocal sentiment of commitment. Fact is, the U.S. geopolitical power is going down in the world. They have just so much geopolitical energy. How much of that geopolitical energy they are ready to put into meeting the needs of Hungary and other countries in the East Central European area is an open question. They have, to be frank, more important priorities. They are certainly not going to be a military support. That's very, very clear to me. And it should be clear to everyone after recent events in Georgia. Hungary's future is more tied to France and Germany than it is tied to the United States. That may or may not be a pleasing prospect to Hungarians, but it's a geopolitical reality.